welcome to another episode of Script to Screen. I'm your host, Marc Bauer. This is a talk show where I interview local writers and filmmakers of the Iowa City area. Today my guest is Colt Amborn. Thanks for being here, Colt.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Always a pleasure, Marc.
Yeah. Thank you. So you were a student at the University of Iowa?
Yeah, that I was. I actually wasn't involved in film. I was a sociology major and I got a business certificate. But I always kind of wanted to go to the clubs, but I just always seemed like school got in the way too much. And then I graduated, and then I finally came to the student video productions and found out about PATV.
When would you say your interest in film started?
I think originally I wanted to write like novels, and I would write these long, very explaining paragraphs about a scene and stuff like that, and I would force them on my friends, and they would be like, "Oh God," and I was like, but then I started drawing pictures and making storyboards, and people were like, "Oh, is this what you were talking about? That's not. I might watch that." And then so I started thinking more about film as a better medium to actually put out what you want, and other than force somebody to read your run-on sentences.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it was definitely more visual-based for you.
Yeah.
Storytelling. What types of movies are you interested in?
Oh, movies? I like a lot of movies that are based on books. Movies with, or movies by writers like Cormac McCarthy. Usually science fiction movies. If it was based on a novel, they completely made it just this over-the-top action thing, which was still fun. But stuff like Starship Troopers, which was just kind of a popcorn flick, but I could tell there was something more to it, and it made me want to read the actual Robert Heinlein book.
Yeah.
And which, even though how cheesy that was, and it still led me down the rabbit hole to the actual literature. And that's what I like most about movies, when there's some kind of other basis on that.
In terms of books, did you read sci-fi books mostly growing up, or?
Yeah. I just liked how they could frame, like, you could take a social problem and, like, kind of skew the technology and see how it still wraps around, and because technology doesn't really solve our problems, but kind of makes new ones.
Were you always interested in drawing?
Well, yeah, I did draw as a kid. I like drawing superheroes, especially Spider-Man, because he did really dynamic poses and stuff like that. Even though he was kind of got his butt kicked, but he was still hanging in there. He wasn't like Superman, which gets all the credit. But I like Spider-Man a lot, and some other anti-heroes like Punisher and stuff like that. And I drew that a lot, and I didn't do that for like 10 years, 15 years. And I only started drawing again after trying to describe what I was trying to describe by drawing them. And I found after I could actually draw my characters out, it seems like it made a better pitch to my friends and a better pitch to myself. Like once I actually drew it, then I felt it easier to write script, because I could actually see people talking, that person talking. So I found that helpful.
Sure. What do you think about, there's certainly a takeover of superhero movies coming out. Are you a fan of superhero movies? Is that kind of the best of both worlds for you?
You know what? Actually, superhero movies are really good, but I have not been seeing them.
No.
I was like, because like, I was a comic book nerd, and I was super into Iron Man, and Silver Surfer was probably my favorite because he was kind of intellectual. But yeah, the Marvel movies, I think they actually even do it better than the comic books. But it just seems like everybody loves Marvel movies, and if somebody says they like them, it still doesn't tell you as much about the person as it did before. When
Sure.
People were playing Dungeons and Dragons in the basement, having somebody watch the door. I think, though, other stuff like they're finally doing The Tick again, and The Tick was my favorite because The Tick made fun of superheroes.
Yeah.
And Ben Edlund is like one of my favorite writers. I think he also did a lot of Firefly too, which was pretty much that's kind of what got me into sci-fi as opposed to Star Wars and Star Trek, because they had more logistical problems that were kind of funny, like running out of gas or having to do crappy jobs.
Kind of just taking what's going on already, but skewing it. Let's put it in the future a little bit.
Yeah, so it's not that far away. You know, Captain Kirk doesn't have the phasers make his coffee.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, well, how do we get coffee in space? I like thinking about that stuff. I'm nerdy like that.
Yeah. You mentioned that you realized you could tell stories better through drawing. When were you able to work on film projects with some of your drawings? Were you able to bring people on board to make some short films?
Yeah, but it was very simple.
Yeah.
Just like camera here and there. Just for like, when I was doing student video productions, we do like a 48-hour challenge or a 1 minute thing, or 1 hour. Of course, 1 hour isn't nearly enough time to storyboard. But I think after doing it, it allowed me to envision different camera shots, or even if somebody else was doing the camera and I was acting, where would I want to be? Because I was always thinking, what if it was over here? What was over here? You know, drawing stuff like that, yeah. So it does kind of transcend, but it's still a different discipline, I would definitely say, yeah.
You're also involved here at PATV. I should have introduced you as a friend of PATV because you actually have a show here.
Sure.
Can you tell us about that show?
Oh yeah. I teach at the judo club at the University of Iowa, and I was kind of like noticing there was a lot of other martial arts, but we don't really like talk too much. So everybody's saying like, there's a lot of people saying like, oh, I got this special thing, I can like scoop out your eye like that, but I don't practice it, but I know I can do it.
Yeah.
And as opposed to like, and there's real martial arts that train competitively, right? And I just wanted to bring us all together so we could like have a forum and actually like talk about those things, and not necessarily to prove each other wrong, but we're not working against each other, and that's like my goal for the Fighting 29th, the Iowa Martial Arts Forum. 29 is like the 29th state in the union.
Okay.
A friend of mine suggested that, and I kind of stuck with it. I like it. But that was the goal of that. There's a lot of like little gyms, like even, I mean, Iowa City's not a small town, but it's not a big town, but there's still a lot of like interesting martial arts activities going on. You don't have to like climb a mountain in Tibet and learn from some dude with a beard that beats you with a stick or anything like that. You know, there's like people here. And if you open up and try different things, you know, first like help define kind of what you want to get out of it. That's kind of what I want to do. And have people try other martial arts. You know, judo's kind of rough. It messes up your face.
Yeah.
So if that's not for you, I'd rather do karate. You know, you can definitely get something from it, and definitely doing forms. And I think it promotes mindfulness and like kind of clearing your thoughts. And anything you do in repetition can kind of be good for the soul, as long as it's not physically hurting you. So I definitely encourage people to do those martial arts too. And just by doing that, I couldn't tell you that like a year ago. I had to build that. I really built that understanding from trying to make the show, more than actually just doing the martial arts, right? I think people give martial arts too much credit of being like zen-y and, you know, mindful, but I feel like it wasn't until I had to try and convey it to other people, how much I knew or how much I wanted to share. Then I think that became really important than before. Then when I was just trying to push my agenda on people, my judo agenda was judo is the best.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like it's really kind of opened your eyes throughout the process, as well as educating others.
Yeah.
If we can get back to your drawings a little bit,
Sure.
You are working on a web comic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's Wylie's Discount Sci-Fi Extravaganza. It's about kind of a blue-collar guy in outer space, and he has to do jobs for these really kind of upper-class aliens that look like birds, because I like drawing animals. And so yeah, it's him and his co-worker, which is a rib, which looks like a Earth amphibian, and he's kind of like, he picks them up on a very poor planet, and like he hires them out, and then they go off and they do jobs like fixing people's houses and spaceships. and that's kind of what they do. Yeah.
Where did you come up with the idea?
Where did I come up with the idea? Well, I always kind of want to know kind of what the knuckle draggers were doing. I think there has been some good examples, like Battlestar Galactica kind of got into that too a little bit, because I was in the Navy and I was an enlisted man, and I always thought it was funny watching Star Trek and you only follow the officers and stuff like that. Yeah, sure, there's somebody, I can't do it, Captain, I'm in the engine room, but you don't see him pulling apart the gears, getting shocked because he didn't properly turn off the power supply or anything like that. So I kind of wanted to focus on, I was always interested more in kind of what the basic maintenance level people did, and especially in a time of like rapid expansion in outer space, I just wanted to imagine somebody that was just trying to make a living with his own business, but he's kind of, I don't know what you expect, a blue collar, kind of like a Archie Bunker in space type of guy.
Discount is in the title. How'd you come up with the title for this?
Well, okay, maybe once. Because I thought it was like an interesting kind of, I don't know, juxtaposition or controversy or something, because you think sci-fi and you're thinking of something very pristine, like lasers and ships that come to excellent points and stuff like that. But if you're like if somebody's selling you discount rides into outer space or something like that, what would you think? We're like, this is kind of shifty, right? Yeah. You know, I want to make sure my air works and stuff like that. You know? I mean, I just thought it'd be funny.
And it kind of leads to misadventures that way. You know, you don't know what you're getting into.
So. It's like you can't afford Star Trek, so you got to follow Wylie, kind of drifting around space aimlessly, like doing work on power boxes and shocking himself.
You mentioned being in the Navy. Has any experiences from there influenced, do you have any stories from there that you're now putting in your comic?
Oh, probably not directly, but I do take some things I get from the Navy, right? Because I had to stand watch and drive the ship, right? So we had to report things and bearings, like the plane, like forward is 000, back behind you is 180, and stuff like that, and how the navigation lights were. So I am taking that in the actual, maybe not the actual script, but the actual design, how I design the vehicles. And because I want to put all these fun little Easter eggs that like you don't need to pick up on, but it's fun if you do. Like how they say, oh, there's something over here, or this is like how the turn signal works, because they're going to have actually like a blinker on the ship. They're like ding, 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 ding. And kind of tie ridiculousness with semi-plausible stuff. And I think that helped in my Navy experience. And that and seeing lots of different types of people. Because that's one thing I really want to stress on the comic. There's only 3 major races, but of those races, there's people that have come from very different worlds and very different backgrounds. And I think that's the most what I got out of the Navy, is seeing different types of people and having to be under this certain structure. It's probably mostly what I took from the Navy.
Yeah. How many, have you finished the first issue, or where would you say you're at?
Yeah, I finished the first issue, and I have scripts for like 8 actual episodes, but I'm seeing as I put them in panels, I might break them down. I was going to release them like 7 pages at a time, was my goal.
Are there any plans to eventually adapt this comic into a film?
I'd like to make a cartoon, but that's pretty ambitious.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to put it out there and see if people give a crap.
Yeah.
And I'd like to make a cartoon. And I have talked to several like comedians and other friends to do voice acting. I was just thinking they would read by the panel, but that's still in the works. I really need to just focus on getting the first couple issues out, and I should have. Well, I don't know when this is released. But a week or 2 from now, I'm going to be releasing the first issue.
Oh, excellent. Is there a place that people can find that at?
Yeah, I have Wylie. His name Wylie Faego, Faego, Wylie Faego. He has a Twitter and an Instagram, like he's a real person, because he is a real person. and that's where I put the information on. I also have a website that I'm putting together. But Twitter and Instagram is probably the best place to find out about how to get in touch with that. I do put the artwork as I'm making it, but when I put the actual comic out, I'll probably just show you how to get to the actual site.
Oh, great. I hope people check that out. I hope you continue working on that, because it sounds like a fun project and something you're having fun with.
Yeah, thanks, yeah.
You had mentioned that you were a crew member on Dead Air. We have the director, Matt Tribble.
Hey, Colt, how's it going?
When did I came to the SVP meeting to kind of pitch this project?
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
Is that when you first heard about it? What were your initial thoughts?
I think I saw a flyer for it, but I didn't really think too much about it. But then once I saw you there, I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. This is real. And I did see Script to Screen before, one time, just like when I first came here to PATV, and I was checking out everybody else, which was really cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
So yeah, and I was like, man, this would be a great opportunity to actually work on something with a script.
Yeah.
I've done some projects, but let's just wing it, and then sometimes let's just not.
Sure.
Sometimes
we've all
genius
been there.
comes out, but that's not the majority.
Yeah.
So I could, and then I got to come and watch you guys do the reading at the library, and that was and even then, just having people sit around a round table and I just read lines, and I was kind of I was supposed to read, Rob comes in and then does this, and they were like,
did we?
yeah, you don't just get right to the dialogue.
I would say we gave you, I think, the majority of the reading. It was you had to read all of the the description, the action, and some of the parts even, I want to say, for people that weren't there. So
yeah, but that was a good experience.
Yeah.
I can tell the actors, they didn't want, because they already read the script.
Sure.
They didn't want to lose the moment, so they're jumping right in. I was like, oh, I should probably just say, okay, we changed rooms.
Right, exactly. Yeah, they like to the sort of let's just get into the scene. The back and forth is finding the flow of it that way.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So we started shooting back in November. What were your initial thoughts when we got it underway?
Oh, well, I didn't know exactly what to expect, but I really but that you guys did it perfect for that, because there was nothing that wasn't undefined. You kind of knew what the whole thing was about right from the beginning. And it was a good pitch, about the radio station changing the format. And I was thinking, I don't know, I learned more about what was actually the story about as it goes. Because the first thing I thought, oh, it's probably they just changed from rock to pop or something like that. But it was so much more than that, you know. Which is probably good. You could maybe pitch it that way, but when you actually see the movie, there's actually a lot more going on with the character.
Yeah, more with the day-to-day routine and just the way that the show runs. So.
The way that the show, and then how the audience receives it. Mm-hmm. It's more than just a musical style, but really just you get a feeling of just people kind of grasping at straws, trying to figure out, what are the kids into now? Yeah. Which has probably always been that way, but now it's so ADD that it's really crazy. It's it just changes so much.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think you hit it's somewhat universal in that everybody's trying to stay on top of what's not just trending, but what's in the now. Mm-hmm. How do we stay ahead of it so that way we can keep functioning? But yeah.
But there's always one thing sometimes I'm sure in the '60s a song came out that wasn't that great, or maybe but people listen to it so much they're like, oh, that's my jam. That's my jam. I heard it when I was 5.
Yeah.
So I could definitely see there's a really cool vision here, and then actually seeing actors that can act. Wow, it was just great to just be a part of production. And sometimes I even forgot to hit stop on the sound button because I was watching a movie. Yeah. Sometimes, so it was cool.
Hey, I was gonna say, in regards to sound, it's better to keep rolling than to cut off too much. So yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what your experience was on set? Did you feel I'm watching this?
A lot of times, yeah. Sometimes it's well, let's get it exactly right. And sometimes I was man, how can the actors deliver it that way that many times, like, because you got to get it from this angle and this angle. Now I was thinking like I might do something really awesome once.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's it.
Since you've done all forms of like you do your judo show and you've done like pre-production, post-production, and production on all forms of projects. What is your favorite stage, I guess, of filmmaking? Is it the sort of the writing aspect at the beginning? Is it the actual shooting events, or is it the editing, putting it all together at the very end? What do you tend to enjoy the most?
I like to write.
Okay.
I like to write. That's my favorite. Editing, I hate it.
Sure.
But it's got to be done.
Yeah.
It's got to be done. It's good to. There's a big difference between like editing things you can do. There's a big difference between whether people are watching or not.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
Like dead things where the conversation runs out, or like awkward cuts.
Sure.
And stuff like that. And it's like stuff that's like really meticulous. But if you don't, it's like having a dirty house. You know, if you clean your house, nobody notices. But if you don't clean your house,
Everybody notices. Yeah.
And I think of editing kind of like that, but writing is my most enjoyable
Yeah.
What was kind of your big takeaway from Dead Air?
I mean, like, just kind of like I said before, seeing like real actors, real script. I mean, you guys had catering and shot lists, and the organization has like made me realize like the level I'm at with my ideas and where I need to be. I mean, I think that was the biggest thing that I took from aside from having a lot of fun and meeting like some people that are really passionate about it, like just seeing what kind of has to be done. It's not like, yeah, I got an idea. Well, my little sister has ideas, you know? They're like, yeah, you need to take that picture of the crappy looking unicorn off the refrigerator. You know, girl, if you want to make this unicorn happen, gotta write a script. Write a script, get a crew. So I felt like that. I felt like making bad unicorns for the refrigerator and knowing where I want to be.
Well, we certainly appreciate it. That I think we've still got a long ways to go.
Yeah, I think that's how it always is. You're always just trying to get better. You take it one step at a time. You do one project. You say, oh, I could have done this better, or maybe this worked and I didn't expect that to work, and then you use that for your next project down the road. So. Yeah, I'd say that's always just kind of a thing, is just always trying to grow and get better at whatever you're trying to pursue. So, yeah.
What are you working on next?
Well, aside from my comic book, my long-term goal is kind of make just like a pitch for a television show about a crappy martial arts fighter in a low town. Like kind of like small town MMA, because I've done that before, and I think the characters are just hilarious, and it's not necessarily like you only see the high level usually on the TV, or you hear a story about somebody that did something stupid, but I think there's been other martial arts movies or mixed martial arts movies, and I watch it just because I'm interested in, but I don't know, it's like they kind of make it look too cheesy. Like they don't have the. I think, what's his name, Kevin James, when he did Here Comes the Boom, once after I saw that, it's like he's like actually there's like inside jokes, but you can actually, like, normal people can follow it, and they had to tie it up with a family ending that like all kind of worked out. But it wasn't that popular, because I think other people were expecting the meathead thing from it. And then I found something that was like, it's kind of cute, you learn something, and it just showed all the funny little stories behind the action. And from that's what made me want to do this. Like, a story about a fighter, but that's not all he is. I know probably in any writing class they'll probably tell, well, you need to make up your mind, you know, what kind of character is this person? But I think there's a lot of people, like, they want to be fighters, but they get distracted by a lot of stuff. They have priority issues. But, you know, and there's not really a lot of money in it. It's really just more of a status kind of ascension feeling, or your own personal growth.
I was going to say, you sent me a draft of that a few months ago, and I read it. And that was one of the things that I really liked about your script, was that you grasp onto the sort of humanity, like the grind of it all, like trying to, like, you enjoy this field, you enjoyed pursuing this kind of dream, but it's not easy, and it's a grind. But you're also being able to kind of joke about things, find the humor in sort of the difficulties of life. And actually, just from like even like earlier in your interview when I was listening, I kind of latched on this sort of like redemptive sort of thing you're discussing. Like you're talking about like with judo, like there's times you're going to get embarrassed and you gotta get up and you gotta get better. You talked about with Spider-Man, like he's just like a high school kid, gets beat up a few times, figures it out.
You got it.
Deep
soul, Mr.
No. This I was just saying.
Notice that.
So
you totally.
Yeah, so there's like this redemptive theme, I guess, kind of from what you've discussed, and I think that's kind of an element that everybody kind of can latch onto and understand and get.
Well,
so.
I feel like I understand my concept better now.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
I'm gonna pitch that. I'm gonna pitch that to well, not Weinstein, but I'll pitch it. Whoever else you can pitch.
Find a better producer. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is there any advice that you have for people looking to get into either comics or judo or filmmaking, any of these areas?
Yeah, I think the best thing is try it, and not necessarily. I don't want to say don't be self-critical, but that's just part of it. You know, you're gonna be like, this is gonna suck, but as long as you keep active, and you can look at like what I did last year or last week. I mean, that's the biggest thing. I'm always trying to push writing on my friends, and I do it too much. And they're just like, you don't understand. It's like, at a certain point, I'm sure you guys know, it almost burns you more to not make it than to make it and fail. It's just like, you suck your teeth. It's just like, I just don't want to. I think that's the biggest thing. I think you find that is the point where it bothers you more to not make it than to not do it. And not everybody's athletic, not everybody's good at drawing, not everybody's a writer, but no matter what path you're on in life, I just think like have your hobby and make it better. Always trying to make it better, like you said, Matt. And it seems like something I might get oversaid, but I think that's real, man. Real stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank you, Colt, for being on the show.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
And thank you for joining our crew. Like trusting a bunch of nobodies. Like, hey, we want to make a movie, and thanks for showing up and helping us out.
Nobody,
Appreciate it. So, yeah. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you for being on the show.
Oh yeah,
man.
no problem. Anytime, Mark.
Thank you, Rylee, for sticking around. Now I'm
Thanks, Rylee.
breaking the fourth wall, but it's my show.
I'm not allowed to break the
break
fourth
my
wall.
own wall.
Only Mark is.
Thank you for watching this episode of Script to Screen. We'll be seeing you next time.
Peace.